Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. So we're going to continue on with our master license guides, this time going for International A. I'd certainly say in terms of a step up in the difficulties, this license was getting much harder. Now this is going to be the final of the sort of standard license test before we get into the super license, which is obviously just all one lap challenges. So yeah, strap in, let's get into it. Same rules apply as usual, dual sense only, no assists, and we'll work our way through all 10 of the International A licenses. I'll obviously go ahead and just slow it down at key points and kind of, talk more in depth about what you need to do to get these ones beat. Okay, so International A up first. This is going to be tricky consecutive corners 1 at Road Atlanta using the Corvette C7 ZR1. Overall, this one was a fairly easy one. It wasn't too difficult. It didn't take me too many goes to get this one done, and I'm going to take you as usual step by step. So to begin with, head over towards the left of this section, brake just as the sort of tarmac appears on the left away from the grass. Get the car to turn in, then bring the throttle back in, run yourself up nice and wide towards the curb here. You can pretty much get yourself at full throttle for a split second before lifting, braking once again, not too harshly though. Bring yourself over to the left, you can cut up over this curb here. You can actually take pretty much the entire curb without being disqualified, so use that to your advantage for a much better angle. Now this section down here is a rather awkward downhill section with just constant consecutive corners. It's all about lifting, using your throttle control. Again, you shouldn't need the brakes too much through here, or if at all. Again, just angle it right, bring yourself over to the right, hit the brakes nice and hard up over this left hand curb, and then try and aim yourself out wide. You can run plenty of this curb here, just don't go entirely over, especially over the white line, or else you will be disqualified from this test. We got this one in a 33.385. So next up, we're going to move on to International A2, once again using a Corvette, but this time using the original C1 from 1958 for tricky consecutive corners 2. I would go as far as saying this one is much harder than the first IA license test. The main reason is the Corvette itself is rather quite a clunky, classic, typically classic feeling car. So head over to the right, then it's all about balancing the brakes and the throttle. As you can see, I'm constantly going from one to the other, getting the front to turn in. Do not cut too much of this section here or else you will be disqualified. Angle it for the right hander here. Once again, don't cut too much or else you will be disqualified. As close to the wall as you can possibly get. Turn straight in on the right, brake rather quite heavily, lift off, let the car sort of slide out and get ready to angle yourself for this left-hander, which is almost instant after the right-hander. Once again, slow the car down pretty standard, and then bring yourself out wide. Again, try not to run too much over the white line or else you will be disqualified. You can pretty much just about get the entire car on it. Any slight chance over and you will get DSQ'd from it, so just be careful. A lot more difficult than the previous. On to Master IA3 now with the Impreza once again at urban tracks, and these are the bane of my existence. So once again, it's going to be very enclosed and we're going to get straight to it. Now, I would go as far as saying this one's much more wide open than the one we saw in, I think, A3, A4 with the Ferrari F12. So head out to the left. Now, you're looking for the 100 board here. Brake nice and hard and then bring the brakes off. Lift, turn the car in. You may get a lot of kick from the vehicle. I did, as you can see. Managed to keep it under control. In an ideal world, that would have been much smoother. Bring yourself out wide and then bring yourself over to the right. Once again, little feather of the brakes, again lifting off with the car, bring the throttle in nice and smooth, and then head over to this right hander here. Now you can be pretty much throttle controlling all the way through here. Bring it over to the right and get ready for this left hander. It's much more open than the rest of the track, but there is a chance that the car can run out wide, slap the barrier and end it right there at the end. Eventually bring the throttle in and cross the line and you should be able to get this one. Not too difficult and definitely more wide open than what we saw with the Ferrari F12 back in the National A license. So a little bit more leeway in terms of how far off you can run and such without slapping the wall. On to IA4 next, the SLR McLaren at the Nürburgring Nordschleife for corners with elevation changes number 1. Now this one, again, it's quite a tricky one, it's a bit of a lengthy one, but overall it's not too bad. Okay, so nice and heavy on the brakes, bring it over to the right and get ready for this really sharp left-hander. It's going to pretty much go around on itself, so be very, very careful here. Short shift to maintain as much traction as possible and then accelerate out. A little bit of a lift into the right-hander, bring yourself out nice and wide. I got a bit of a slip from the rear there, as you can see, and then your full throttle into the right-hander, a little bit of a lift through here, and then brake just as the kind of curb sorts of, you know, kind of curves around. Bring yourself over to the left, run yourself out wide once again. Short shift if you need to maintain as much traction as possible, and then once again head over to the left for the uphill section. You're going to be taking a fairly quite quick right-hander here. It's not as slow as it looks, but it is on that elevation, as you can see. Short shifting to maintain grip on exit, and then you are full throttle all the way down this section. Quite an open section, quite a fast section. You may need to lift on the left-hander here, as you can see I did. We got off the throttle, onto the brakes as heavy as possible. Definitely ran a little bit too deep there, but it does give us a, you know, fair enough angle to get us a nice drive out with a bit of short shifting and up across the line. 51.362 for that one, with a gold target time of 51.510. Although the Nordschleife is quite a tricky circuit, it's all about muscle memory and just kind of remembering each individual sector. So let's move on to IA5. This was one that is going to be, once again, quite a pain to me. I'm definitely not very confident at Mount Panorama, and this time we're using the classic Skyline 2000 GTR, which is a bit of a twitchy old vehicle, to say the least. Especially when it's fully upgraded, it'll just spin itself around constantly. Now, we are using the classic one here, so absolutely flat out, little bit of a lift, just to maintain, you know, as much traction as possible. Bring it over to the left, and here comes the tricky part. I can never ever get this really that right. So bring the brakes in, and then you're going to brake nice and hard. The car may try and get away from you. I recommend getting yourself up over the curb, brake as hard as possible, and try and get on the inside of this right-hander without completely clipping the wall, or else it is a DSQ. Cut into the left there, once again at the right, kind of cut over, short shifting to maintain traction and bring it out nice and wide. That section there is mainly made harder by the walls that surround it. Now, once again, really heavy on the brakes. You're going to be taking this left-hander here, down the gears into second, as you can see, and then we're going to be short shifting on exit. Once again, try not to clip the barriers. They're going to be the main issue for this run, that the car's not only just a little bit skittish at the rear and under brakes, that the barriers surround you are very easy to clip. We ended up with a 37.866 and the gold time was a 38.080. So not too difficult once you can nail it down, mainly made harder by the barriers. Onto IA6 next. This is one, once again, where it's more you're against the conditions and the track than you actually are the timer. I got a very unclean run here. If you want to make it easier, just put traction on. Obviously I kind of promised myself that I wouldn't. We're on comfort softs. It's all about just keeping control of the vehicle. Again, you may run wide, you might miss exits. As you can see through this left-hander here, I made an absolute terrible job of it. Then into the right-hander, once again, I've got the rear end kicking out, only just keeping the car up on the curb there, or else that would have been a DSQ. Did manage to get this one first time. Again, very lenient on the timing for this one. You're mainly up against the conditions, so just be aware that the rear end of this thrower is going to want to get away from you. Just use short shifting, keep the car under control, and you should be able to get this one nice and easy. Even with a pretty scruffy run there, I managed to do a 41.3. Now, we've got the Super Formula car here, and it's going to be Master IA7 for tricky consecutive corners free. This one isn't too bad once you realise just how much grip and downforce this vehicle's got. So right hand side, you want to brake at the 100 board and bring it across to the left. Now, it's quite an open exit, so bring it in and then run it out wide before putting the throttle in. You can pretty much skip across this left-hand curb here. Don't take too much of it, but try and take enough that it keeps the car nice and stable and lines you up well for this right-hander. Then it's all about braking and throttle control here before absolutely putting the power down on exit for these next two right-handers. You're pretty much flat out at this point. As you can see, flat out through the right-hander. Brake just slightly if you need to there, or lift. As you can see, I preferred lifting. I know some people will probably want to brake there. Again, we got this one by around about 5/10 to the gold there. So 27.3 for that one. Not too bad when you kind of realize how grippy these Super Formula vehicles are. Can be awkward once you kind of go from something like that classic Ferrari in the wet to the Super Formula. That's really where it's catching you out. Master IA8 next, tricky consecutive corners number 4 in the Lamborghini Countach at Grand Valley Highway 1. Not as bad as I expected it to be, but still it can be quite a tricky, I guess, section of this track. You're going through the tunnel, then you're going out to a sort of really tight left-right, and then you're pretty much flat out. So here we go. Check the left-hand side here. Braking at the 200 board, bring it down the gears, bring it to the right, and then angle yourself so you can head over to the right hand side ready for the left-hander. You can chop up plenty of this, just do not touch those cones, so you can take plenty of the curb to sort of assist with your angle, and then instantly turn to the right, short shift to keep traction. Do not get on the dirt or over the line, or else it will disqualify you, so be as careful as possible with the exit, but nice, fast and smooth. Full throttle through here. Then you've got the left-hander. You may have to lift for this bit here, as you can see I did, to kick the rear end out, and then once again through the right hand I'm going to apply a dab of the brakes, get the rear end to kick out, and that'll give me a nice smooth angle to exit the tunnel and give us the gold. So 39.187, only just doing it. Quite an awkward section, mainly that left right, that can really catch you out, especially with the track limits. So did manage to get that one. Wasn't as difficult as I expected it to be. It's mainly just an old brutish supercar. Now we're going back to the snow for Snow Driving Expert for Master IA9, this time using the Celica. Now this time I recommend just keeping the torque at 40 to 60 or 35 to 65 at most. Now head over to the left, quite a bumpy section to begin with. Get the rear end to kick out, and then use the power to kick yourself all the way out and give yourself a nice smooth angle. Get it out as wide as possible. Drop the gear if you need the rear end to kick out more. Sometimes you might get too much grip. As you can see, the car started getting grip for me there. Short shifted just to get a nice drive out, down shifted once again to kick the rear out, because as you can see at the angle I'm going to end up ploughing into that barrier there. Into the left-hander, pretty much flat out. You want to be kicking the rear out. You may end up touching the snow banking. It's rather quite lenient, and then onto the brakes nice and hard. Go down the gears, kick the rear out once again, get into the left-hander, and then you need to be prepared that straight after this you're going to be going into the final corner, which is once again another tight right-hander. So we're in third gear here. We're then going to drop the gear, rotate the car the opposite way, get ourselves in nice and tight. There's quite a big wide runoff here, which I completely forgot about in my run. Short shifting to get as much grip as possible, bringing it out nice and wide, and then full throttle to the finish. This should give you the gold. It's again quite a lenient time. It doesn't need to be a pinpoint perfect run, and if you've done the circuit experience, which I have as well, you will pretty much know what to do. It's, you know, the same theory in terms of what we did for the gold circuit experience. So let's move on to the final test. Master IA10 final exam using the 962C. Back on the Nordschleife here, and once again it's kind of caught you out by giving you a previous license of being, you know, very little grip to something that's got a ton of downforce. So use that to your advantage. You need to be very much flat out, you know, very precise. So downhill section here, dab the brakes. If you don't, then there is a high chance you're going to plow straight into that gravel and disqualify yourself. Flat out once again, as you can see. Try not to lift. You want to be absolutely on the throttle all the way down here. The car can handle it. There's a ton of downforce. Chop up the curbs if you want to. Just don't run onto the grass, or else it's a DSQ. Left-hander here, bring the brakes in, lift, bring the throttle back in, and get ready for another, you know, more difficult braking section. Bring the brakes in over to the left, run it out nice and wide. Try and get yourself, you know, up towards the curb, ready to angle yourself for this left-hander here. Hard on the brakes. Downshift. I downshifted probably a little bit too much. Second gear should be enough. Use the banking of the corner to sort of assist you through. Full throttle once again. Slight little lift and brake here, as you can see. Downshift just to kick the rear end out so it doesn't run too wide. Back up to third, and then you are pretty much flat out. May require a little bit of throttle, and then absolutely flat out across the finish. Can be quite awkward, but again, it's all about trying to remember that you've gone from a car that was on the snow to one that has got a ton of downforce. So use that to your advantage. Once you get it, you should get it in plenty enough time. And that's going to complete International A license. So with that done and dusted, let's head over to the rewards. So as per usual, for all of the bronze rewards, I guess, or all of the bronze medals, you're going to be rewarded with the roulette ticket as usual. This time in the form of a 5-star roulette ticket. You know, a fairly decent reward. You can get some decent rewards from that ticket as well. I think I ended up with something like 500k for this one. Then obviously the car reward is going to be sort of in the theme that these have always been, that you end up getting the final exam vehicle. So for this one, we're going to be receiving the Porsche 962C, which in my opinion is a fantastic reward. It's a great car, saves you a ton of money if you haven't already got one, and in all honesty, it is just a full-blown legendary Group C race car. 690 brake horsepower, 850 kilogram turbocharged. It does make for a very, very good grinding build if you want to kind of do those events as well. So there we go. That is International A license done. That is going to be the end of the typical license test. Next up, we're going to have the Master Super license, which is all going to be 1 lap time trials. Yeah, it's definitely going to get a bit more tougher. I'd say overall, I actually found that some of these IAs were a little bit more tricky than some of the Master ones. But yeah, definitely a great time. This does finish off the more typical license tests, and we'll head over tomorrow to go into the Master Super license. Thanks so much for watching. If this guide helped you out, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.